Welcome to this session, and almost the entire session we will have about the models and the schemas and their relations with Semantic MediaWiki objects. And I see there is a lot of interest in this case, and a lot of extensions that do more or less the same thing, and you can choose what sort of them do you want to choose. And page schemas are one of them. SmartCore from ArchExcel is another good extension to help you edit your templates and forms and properties more easily. Erwin Oord will talk about it.
Thank you, Yuri. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about something that we developed, and we call it SmartCore. We developed this, it started kind of as an experiment. So it's a case study. It started as an experiment, and that ended up as a product. We actually sell this, or we offer this to our customers. We have customers with Semantic MediaWiki, and they use it. They're happy with it. So I'd like to talk to you about you. You've seen this sheet yesterday already. The only thing new is the lower line. My name is Erwin Oord. I am a managing partner at ArchExcel and Excellent Knowledge, which is basically our knowledge management label. Maybe it's a good time here. We're also sponsor of this congress, so maybe now is a good time to compliment Yuri, Karsten, and all the others who have been working so hard to make this happen. Guys, it's an excellent congress, so good work. So I want to tell you what this SmartCore thing is. Secondly, I'd like to go into the architecture of SmartCore. We're an enterprise architecture consulting company, so we'd like to talk about architecture. So, thirdly, I want to show you some interesting details, things that we discovered or problems that we encountered in developing SmartCore. Then I would like to share some thoughts on how you should actually manage content structure. What is the best way to do that? And if time allows, and I think it won't, I can give you a real-life demo. So what is SmartCore actually? Well, it's an extension to Semantic MediaWiki, which enables you to manage your content structure in a user-friendly way. If you've ever programmed forms and templates, then you probably know that it's not very easy to do that. You have to type a lot of curly braces and pipes, etc., and that's not easy. So you want to do that in a user-friendly way, and also you want to have your changes reflected immediately in forms and templates, so that users who are entering content can work with the changes immediately. So what is it? Suppose I have a wiki page. Now we're in Germany, so I thought let's do something that Germans know a lot about. So let's have a car. I have a BMW 740i. It's not my car, unfortunately, but it's a car model. So this is on a wiki page. And I also have a property that says this car can go 250 kilometers per hour. And further, BMWs are built by a company which is named Bayerische Motorwerke AG. So I'm a Dutchman speaking German with an English accent. So this is your content. Now if you go one abstraction level up, then you can say, okay, so this is a car model. It has a top speed, and it has something which we call created by, or produced by, whatever. That is your content structure. But you can go one level up more. It's kind of an abstract presentation. Because car model is effectively, it's a class. Now we call this an element type, but it's a class. Top speed is a property. And created by is a relation. I'll go into the difference between properties and relations later on. So the blue boxes are your content structure. And that structure goes for every wiki that you have. You always have classes, properties, relations. Now SmartCore is about that. It deals with content structure at that level. Let's have an example. Suppose you have a wiki with a content structure. Now this, you can't read it, it doesn't matter. It's just an enterprise architecture model. This is the content structure of a semantic wiki that we have for the, what's it called, Remco, you found it? Water control authorities in the Netherlands. We have, our government structure has water control authorities. There are 24 of them and they have developed an enterprise architecture for all 24. And we put it in a semantic wiki for them. So this is the structure. Now one day, our customer calls me and he says from, hey, I'd like your help. We have business processes modeled here. And we have roles, persons or departments modeled there. And I want to link those two together. I want to assign a department to a business process. It's a reasonable request. Can you help us make that link? Now what do we do then? We create a property to do that, and it should show up on the form. If I enter the data of a business process, then I want to add another field where I can enter a department. But since we made this in forms and templates, they got quite complicated. So what we end up with is something like this. This is real. It's not the best example of how you should structure your wiki, but in real life things go this way. It's just the way it is. And this blue line, which I highlighted, is actually the line that we had to edit. Now, I don't want to do that. What I would much rather do is when my customer calls me, just say from, hey, good idea, do it yourself, please. In a user-friendly way, of course. So what if we could make forms and templates really dynamic so that you can edit them and have those changes reflected immediately and not using curly braces? Well, that's what SmartCore does. The way it works is that first of course, you have to think, what is my content structure? How will I put my knowledge in the wiki? So you have to define then your element types, your properties and your relations. Am I supposed to stand here or will I go off the screen then? I'll stay behind this line, okay. You see, they thought of everything. First you define your content structure in terms of element types, properties and relations. Then you can create and manage your content. And if you do that, then the SmartCore thing makes sure that the content structure you defined is used in the forms and templates. I'll show you how it works. Architecture. First, the traditional way. How does it work? You have your wiki page. That wiki page usually invokes a template, and you use semantic forms. So your wiki page invokes a template, which might be called car model, and you give it some parameters like top speed. And how does it get there? Well, you made a form. You defined a form car model in which you set for template and then field, top speed, etc. So you have a wiki page, a template, a form, and a property. So this is what you usually do. Now in SmartCore terms, you have this same page, and again, it invokes a template, but this time the template is not car model, it's element, and we call it element because it's completely generic. Element doesn't say anything, because it's the same for every wiki page, for whatever type, if it's a car model or a country or whatever. It also has a form, and again, this form is completely generic. There's nothing specific, model specific in there. They do not point to a property, but they point to a page, another wiki page, car model. In this page, I have defined what a car model is. This page, I have defined that there is a property named top speed. And in my BMW 740i page, I only have to say it belongs to the type car model. Now the good thing is that since car model now is just a wiki page, I can create that using a template and a form, which is part of this SmartCore thing. It's fixed, you never have to change that. And the same goes for property. So what you see is the blue things are provided by SmartCore, and they're completely generic things that you never have to change. They hold all the intelligence. And the orange things, what is it, yellow, are content. They're just wiki pages. I have a wiki page for my BMW 740i. I have a wiki page in which I define the type car model, and I have a wiki page in which I define the top speed property. And everybody can edit that because there's no curly braces or whatever involved. I have some examples. I've only 25 minutes, so I would like to show it in real life, but I'll use the screenshots instead because it's just faster. This is the page BMW 740i, and actually this is the form that you see. It looks the same as it would do if I defined this using a traditional form. Top speed, and it has a relation created by. But if you look at the source code, you see that there's a small difference, and that's here. You can't read it, but it's just a template call, but it says here template element instead of car model. And I'll show you what that template looks like. First, the page itself. Again, BMW 740i, it has the top speed as property, and the relation is here graphically shown that it is created by BMW AG. Now this, you can't read it, and I think that's good, because this is so full of curly braces, pipes and brackets and whatever that it's impossible to read this. It's horrible. But the good thing is this is the template element. You never have to change that. You get that from us. And that's what does the magic. This is the page where you can define your content, your element type. Now this is interesting, because what do you have to define of an element type, of a class? You have certain properties. You can define an icon. You say, I want to show an icon for every car model. You can give it a definition. Interesting here, you can show it on a specific place in the navigation menu, because there's also a template that automatically puts the category car models in the navigation menu. So you can define, do I want that? Yes. You can even define where does it have to show, in which order. And it will automatically put all cars in the category car models. You can define that here. And it's editable for wiki editors, not for wiki programmers, but for editors. So in our case, it's for our customers. And there's some other data that is for mainly enterprise architecture very useful, but like you can refer to an external source. Down here is the real magic. This is where you define your properties. And all you have to do is say, okay, I have a property top speed. And because you have defined that property, it knows exactly that it should show a field for top speed. This is another one, I'll skip this one. How do you define properties? We have created a form for that again. And you can define it like you would normally define a property. It's just a user-friendly form. You can say, what type is it? Well, in this case, it's a getal, which is Dutch for number. Maybe quantity would be better for top speed. But you can define some allowed values. You can say, can this property hold only one value? Or can it hold more than one value? And you can define how should this appear on input forms. Should it be a radio button? Should it be a text field? Now, tekstregel is Dutch for text field. This is the most technical thing that you can expect from a wiki editor to edit, but it's still understandable. Everybody knows what a radio button is, so there's no problem with that. You can even define whether it's a sub-property, and you can give a tooltip to help people how to fill out the forms. So this is what it looks like in the actual form. But it's difficult to see, so I'll go to the next sheet. This is the relation created by. Now I said that we have relations and properties separated, but technically, of course, a relation is just another property. It's a property of type page. But since it's always type page, you don't have to ask that, so we left that out. But we want to make visualizations, use graphs, and properties you don't show in a graph, but relations you do, and you want to show them by using arrows. Now you can define here an arrow head, arrow tail, and a line style, so that you can, for each type of relation, you can use a different line style. And in enterprise architecture, we use Archimate. If you were here on the tutorial day, then Twan showed you all about that. You have to use different types of arrows, so that's why we have put this in here, to help you create graphs. So that's why we make this difference between relations and properties. And another reason is that sometimes you want to specify to which type a page can point. For instance, if we have the relation created by, then we want to say that a car model, BMW 740i, points to a car maker, BMW AG. We don't want it to point to some other entity like country. We don't want it to point to country because it's ridiculous. A car isn't created by a country, as far as I know. So those are the differences between properties and relations. So that's why we separated these two. And finally, all these things, types, properties, and relations together form what we call a knowledge model, or the set of content structure elements. We created an overview page where you can see all your types, properties, and relations. And you can edit them from here. If you click a link, then you go to the page where you can edit this. So putting it all together, you have your knowledge model, element types, properties, relations, an element. And we have some other stuff. Each of these have a form, a template, and a category, which is useful for maintenance. And this is all generic. For element, there's something special going on, because you can't just create a form. You have to dynamically create the fields on that. So we created a special template which calculates from the element type which properties do I have for this type, so which fields do I have to show on the form. So that's this one, create fields. And we also have a template because we want to put all car models in a category car models, and we have to create that category. We have to create that automatically, because you don't want to require from your user to create categories himself. So he only specifies what the name of the category is, and it gets created automatically. And there's some other stuff like navigation. I already said you can have your element types displayed on the navigation menu. So we have a template for that. We also have a template for standard layout. We have separated the template that you use to set properties from a template that you use to display the page on screen. Usually you just have one template. You set the property and you display it on screen. We separated that, and the reason to do that is that setting the properties is something that should always be done, and we don't want our wiki editors to get into that's that horrible template that you saw. We don't want our wiki editors to do things in that template. But they do want to create a display layout for perhaps each element type. They want to show a car model in a specific way. So we want them to have the opportunity to display, to create a template for displaying a car model and another template for displaying a country or whatever. So that's why we separated these two. Some details. How much time do I have left, Yuri? Because I think it's only 5 minutes left, right? Only 2. Okay, so I'll skip this then, and I'll move directly forward to some thoughts on content structure. I want to show the differences and make a comparison between the ways that you can define your content structure. You already know the special create class. It's what you get with Semantic Bundle. You also have seen page schemas already in the tutorial. And you have SmartCore. Now, all 3 are fit to create a content structure. The disadvantage of special create class is that you can do that one time and then you're on your own. You can't change it anymore. You have to do it all over again. With page schemas and SmartCore, you can. Another difference is you reuse. You can't reuse in special create class, but you also, in page schemas, you have to be very careful. If you have 2 categories, and in one category you define a property description, and in another category you define that same property, it accidentally has the same name, then when you hit generate, it will overwrite. Now for something like description, that won't be a problem because it's always a text area. But in other cases, that might give problems, and you're not warned. So in SmartCore, because you have to think in advance, which properties do I have, and you have an overview of all your properties, you can immediately see if you have already used a name for a property. And then you can decide to either reuse it or to create a new one. It's also a different mechanism. Special create class and page schemas they generate the forms and templates for you, which is really nice. SmartCore works in a different way. It doesn't generate anything. The form and template is already there, but it's generic. So at runtime, it decides which fields to show. So it's dynamic code. So it's not that the one is better than the other, but it's different. It's intended for a different audience. If you work with special create class, you really have to know what you're doing. You have to be a wiki expert. Same goes for page schemas, because it has so many options, but you have to know what you're doing. SmartCore, maybe you can do a little less than with page schemas, but it's in a very user-friendly way. Last line. First two are open source, and what we made is not open source, but we are thinking about it. So let me ask one question before time is really up. Who would be interested in having something like SmartCore open source? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So, are there any questions? Okay, we can start. Yeah.
So about relations, so it's good that you try to visualize them, but if you have 50 or 100 relations, what is not unreasonable, I think you will run out of different arrows quite soon. Can you use labels to relations, names of these relations instead for the visualization?
We use, not sure why it's not on screen anymore. All right. You stole my cable. Oh my God. Okay, let me quickly answer the question. Switched it off. I'm switched off. They stole my cable. You're right about that. It depends on what you're trying to do. In Archimate, this enterprise architecture standard, there are a limited number of relations. Each has a different line style, arrowhead, etc. Never mind. Yes, you can use labels. On screen, on the page it display. We use Graphviz. Anything you can do with Graphviz, you can support with this. So yes, you can use labels.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's the last question.
Yeah, I don't know if I might have missed something here. I just wanted to ask, do you somehow cover many-to-many links? Do you have any solution for that?
Sorry, many-to-many links. The problem with the challenge with relations is always that you have to think in advance, where am I going to link my relation? I can say a car model is created by and then linked to BMW AG. I can also create a property on the BMW AG page and say create car models and then link to the other way around. So if you want to create many-to-many relationships, then maybe that's the way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think some frameworks used to have kind of a link class or something. I mean, you need to have something in between.
You can do that also.
Yeah. Okay.
But technically, it's always a property. So a property can point to one or more. And if you want to go the other way around, then either you have to do that on the other page, or you have to create a cross-table page.
Yeah, thanks again.